a podcast about amazing people from an incredible state. Join Mike Broomhead for Amazing Arizonans, presented by Resolution Copper. Copper is essential to Arizona's economy and to America's future. Learn more at resolutioncopper.com.
Another episode of Amazing Arizonans, a podcast where we tell stories of people that are right here in Arizona, and one I've been waiting to talk about for quite a while, legendary NFL quarterback Jim McMahon. Mr. McMahon, thanks for doing this.
Hey, my pleasure. Good to be out.
I want to talk about Arizona, but your career, you were right in my wheelhouse of my youth. I was 18 years old in 1985. The Bears were the biggest thing that were happening at the time. But it also was I think, kind of the introduction into superstardom with the Super Bowl shuffle and the off the field stuff you guys were getting. Was that a turning point, do you think, for you guys for the NFL?
Well, I know the NFL was struggling up until that point, you know, with viewership and a lot of different things, and people were kind of upset with the product. And then we came along, a bunch of crazy guys that were having a lot of fun. And like you said, the Super Bowl shuffle, that thing just won't go away. We did that as to raise money to feed the homeless on Thanksgiving and Christmas. That was our approach to that. And then it became, a worldwide thing. It was pretty amazing. But we did it for the right reasons, but we did it with I think we had 4 games left in the season, so it was kind of a little audacious of us, but, we ended up getting it done and not looking stupid.
I think about that era it was the first time I think the fans really felt like they got to see who players really were. And there were a lot of different personalities. You and Walter Payton, different personalities, but we embraced and we wanted to know more about you. We loved the things you were doing, and we got to see more of them. Yeah,
well, you saw us without our helmets on and on our pads. We were always out in the public. Yeah, everybody had either a radio show or a TV show or, something, a commercial. I mean, people actually saw us, other than the football field. And I think that resonated around the country. I mean, everywhere we went, people knew who we were. And it was fun, but yet it was a pain in the butt, too, at times.
Well, we know that the people have had kind of contrived personas, but you always came across as genuine. The kind of battle that was going on with the commissioner's office and the headband and the things that happened, that wasn't contrived. You were pushing back, saying I am who I am, even on draft day. And where did that come from? Where does that come from for you? That individuality? I'm just who I am.
Well, I never wanted to be anybody else. I didn't want to be so and so or so and so. When kids go out in the playground and hey, I'm so and so. I want to be this guy. I want to be this. I always wanted to be me, and I've tried to live my life that way. People, they can like me or not like me. It's not going to bother me either way. I'm going to live my life. I try to do the right things, and I was able to raise 4 great kids who now they've given me 7 grandkids. And so,
wow.
I think I've done okay, and the people that actually know who I am and know me, have been around me, they always say, "Well, you're not the guy I read about." And I'm like, "Well," I said, "most of the guys that write stuff aren't my friends either." So, I don't worry about what people write or what they hear, unless they know me personally. I don't think about it too much.
And you're right, because it almost seemed as if it was portrayed that you were abrasive. And I had a chance to meet you at events or say hello to you, and you seem very, very approachable and comfortable in your own skin. It's not that people have to like you. You're just kind of your own person. I like that. I think that's a great attribute.
I think most people should, act the way they want to act and be themselves. I mean, I heard a quote, I don't know if it was Matthew McConaughey or something. I'd rather be hated for who I am than loved for who I'm not.
Yeah.
And I've always been me. You can take me or leave me. It's not going to bother me either way. But I'm going to enjoy life. I'm going to have fun. I want my friends and family to have a good time and be healthy and safe. And that's all I worry about.
Are you still a competitive person? Because obviously to be at that level in the NFL and to be a Super Bowl champion, you have got to be very, very competitive. Are you still?
Yeah, it's just part of the nature. If you're going to do something, you want to do it well. You want to win at it. Golf is one game that I can't seem to win at, but it's a game that drives you crazy. But it's something that you can't perfect. I think that's why guys like it. They just keep trying to get better and better and better. And I don't work at it like that. Some guys are out on the range hitting balls, and I just like to go have a beer and have 4 or 5 hours fun with my buddies and I play a lot of different events all around the country, and yeah, you're definitely competitive. You want to do well.
Do you understand why even after your NFL career is over that you're still a sought after person? I mean, I reached out to a few people to ask you to do this because you still are a significant part of not just NFL stuff, but people still want to know your story. Do you understand why? Do you get it?
A little bit of it, yeah. People, they want to, pick your brain, get into your life, and, why are you the way you are? And, I can't explain it. It's just the way I've always been. I grew up with, 2 brothers and 3 sisters, and we were all competitive. And, my dad was our coach till we got to high school. He taught us the fundamentals of the sports. And, I think that's what's lacking these days. Fundamentals are key. I mean, if you're fundamentally sound, you can play pretty much any sport. And then if you have any talent, then you can take it to the next levels. But you got to be fundamentally sound. And he always stressed that. He always stressed that, you give it all you got till the whistle ends or till the clock runs out. And so I've always conducted myself that way. If there's time left, you got a chance to do something positive. And that's what we try to do.
I've seen you at a number of charity events, and as you said, you play at things across the country. What is it? Where is that? How important is that to you, that giving back part of things? And, not doing it with your name attached to it, but just doing it because it's the right thing.
Well, I enjoy doing that. I do a lot of stuff for our military, especially.
Me too.
All different branches of the military. I've helped and had a great time doing it, had some wonderful experiences. Got to do, I've driven a lot of our tanks that we have. I've shot most of our weapons that we have. I got to fly an F-16, a B-1 bomber. I was in Iraq when they hung Saddam. I mean, I've got to do a lot of really great stuff with our military, and I appreciate what they've sacrificed. And I don't get these people that don't honor these guys. I grew up during the Vietnam War, and I grew up in San Jose, California, just south of San Francisco, and a lot of guys would be coming back. So every night on the news, there'd be a big story, but people would be out there, burning the flag and, yelling at these guys. And I never understood that. Here's these guys out there putting their lives on the line for us, and they're getting called baby killers and this and that. And I just never understood it. And so I empathize with those guys, and I try to do everything I can to help them out, because, without them, we're not sitting here doing what we're doing right now. The freedoms that we have, it wasn't free.
I'm so glad to hear you say that. I know you're not aware of this, but I'm a Gold Star brother. My brother was killed in Iraq. I lost a brother in Iraq.
Hear that.
And so I'm with you. It's honoring their service, but also when they come home, making sure they have what they need, that they've earned so much of our respect. But there are so many people that come home with wounds we don't see.
Right.
And for us to be able to extend every possibility for them to lead as fruitful a life as they can seems like an obligation, that it's the thing that I feel compelled, that's something we should be doing, because you're right. They've extended themselves so much for us and laid their lives on the line. The least we could do is try to give them a sense of accomplishment when they come home and the ability to accomplish their goals.
No doubt about it. I mean, a simple thank you goes a long way to these guys.
Yeah.
I see them in the airports all over the country. I see a guy in a uniform, I'll go up and shake his hand and say thank you. And that's not that difficult to me. I don't understand why people just do those types of things. But,
Yeah.
we live in a crazy world right now. Who knows what's going to happen?
What was it about the game or what is it about the game of football that attracted you so much?
Oh, football wasn't my sport. I mean, baseball was my sport, and I loved the game. I played it all the way up till I got to college. I played a couple games in college even, and that's what I wanted to do. But football was my scholarship. My dad said, no, you're going to college, because I got drafted out of high school. And he said, no, you're going to go to college. So I said, well, I want to go play both sports. And the only 2 schools that I could play both sports was either BYU or Nevada, Las Vegas. And my first choice was going to be Vegas. And my dad said, nope, you're not going to Vegas. You're going to BYU. And that was not a fun choice for me, but in the long run, I think it helped me out a lot. I learned a lot about football for one, but life for sure. Very different atmosphere. Growing up in California where I did, I grew up with the brothers and Mexicans, and I never even heard the word Mormon, so I didn't even know what to expect. And it was interesting. I actually played my last years of high school ball and then 5 years of college there in Utah, and learned a lot. Still have a lot of great friends there. I actually just got off a BYU cruise last week. We cruised down from LA down through Mexico. Saw a lot of guys I haven't seen in 30, 40 years, and it was a lot of fun. But it was a good decision. You know, it turned out to be a good decision. You know, had I gone to Vegas, who knows where I'd be right now.
Did you end up enjoying the experience at BYU? I mean, the culture shock of it had to be part of it. And, of course, the media played a big part in that, too, because, of course, you were already labeled the bad boy, and then you go to BYU, and it made it even bigger. But did you learn a lot there? Did you feel like it was a good fit in the end?
Oh, like I said, I learned a lot about football, for one. And I felt like I was way ahead of the game when I got to the pros because of what I learned. But just life in general. I saw a lot of hypocrisy there that I'm like, they were calling me out for things that I saw other people doing.
Right.
I didn't get in trouble. And, again, I was myself. I enjoyed the hell out of Friday night or Saturday whenever we played. And then I would get out of town. I'd go to, as soon as the game was over, I'd get in my car and go up to either Utah State, where my girlfriend from high school was going at the time, and then my older brother was at Weber State. And so I'd be up there for the weekend, having a good time like regular college people.
Yeah.
But when you get back down to Provo, it was a whole different atmosphere. The
draft story. Everybody asks you about the draft story. And didn't you show up with a beer or something on draft day? Was that draft day?
Yeah, that was draft day. Well, that whole draft, I was thinking I was going to the Colts. That was all the pre-draft hoopla was that I was going to the Baltimore Colts. I'd been back there a couple of times. Had dinner with Johnny Unitas at his restaurant. He's telling me all about the city, how I'm going to love it. And but I had forgotten. I told my agent I didn't really want to be in Baltimore. And so draft day, I'm sitting there with my family just at home, and it wasn't like everybody's in New York like it is now or wherever they have the draft. Pete Rozelle gets on the thing and says, with the 4th pick, the Colts take quarterback, so I'm thinking it's going to be me. Art Schleister, Ohio State.
Wow.
And I'm like, whoa, what happened? And my phone rang right away, and it was my agent. He goes, what'd you think? I said, what happened? I thought I was going there. And he said, well, you told me you didn't want to. So I told them not to draft you because they'd never sign you. And so they didn't. I had no idea who was picking next, which was the Bears. And so I get a call from them. And then they said, hey, we're going to draft you. I said, cool. They said, can you get on a plane and come to Chicago? So I did. So 4 hours later, I'm in Chicago. And they picked me up at the airport. I'm in a limousine. There's beer in the limousine. And I just had a 3-hour trip, you know, I have a few pops. And so I wasn't even thinking about the press when we pulled up to Hallis Hall. And I was getting out of the limo, and there was still a couple of beers on the string, so I took them with me. And as I get out, the press was boom right there. And I'm like, oh, no. Probably not a good first impression of their first-round pick. And Mike Ditka, who was a rookie coach at that time, this is his first year. He happened to be walking in the building, and he looked at me and said, so you're my first-round pick, huh? I said, I guess so. That was it for him. And then I had to go meet with George Halas. And I was sitting there, and this is right when the USFL was coming in as well. Mm-hmm. So I had a chance to go to the USFL. And I had a meeting with George Allen, the old Redskin coach, who was going to coach the Chicago team of that league. I had a meeting with him 3 days after Halas. And so as I'm sitting outside George's office, just looking at the secretary for about an hour, right? And I had some friends on the team that wanted to take me out and go have fun. And so I wanted to get out of there. And so I finally said, hey, what am I doing here? And the secretary said, well, Mr. Halas would like to speak to you. I said, fine. When is that going to happen? And she goes, well, he's taking a nap right now. Oh. I'm like, you got to be kidding me. I said, well, go wake him up. I got things to do. I'm not going to sit here all night. So she goes in the office, comes out, says, okay, you can go in. So I'm walking in the office. I haven't even sat down yet. And he tells, the first words out of his mouth were, you're too short, you got a bad eye, you're bad knee, your shoulder's suspect. He goes, maybe you should go to Canada. That was welcome to the NFL for me.
That was after they drafted you?
Yeah. I looked at him and said, well, why'd you draft me, old man? I mean, who's in your scouting department? And he already had a contract. He had a contract for me already. And I just saw one number, and I picked it up, I wadded it up, threw it at him. I said, I'm not signing this. And I walked out. That was my meeting with Papa Bear. And so 3 days later, I met with George Allen, and he offered me an awesome deal. And I said, George, you put this in writing, I'll play for you. But you got to do it then within the next 2 weeks, because they told all the rookies that year, they said, if you don't sign by July 15th, you're ineligible for the season. So I'm thinking that's a real deadline. It turned out it wasn't, because Marcus Allen, I think, and I think it was Darren Nelson from Stanford, both signed after, and they got to play that year. So that's when I knew the NFL was a little flaky. And so what happened was I ended up having to go back and sign that contract that I had watched. So George just kind of unrolled it for me, and that's what I had to play for.
Wow.
My first 3 years. I was the fifth player taken in the first round, and I made less than guys in the second. I was supposed to make $100,000 my first year, and we have a strike. So that's $50,000. So I took home $35,000 my rookie year. Was
that good money then?
Not really. I mean, back then nobody was really making a lot.
Right.
But I mean, to have second rounders making more than me, that kind of pissed me off.
And so when they did that to you, was it them sending you a message? Was that what that was about?
I don't know, or that, or just George was cheap. I mean, Bears have never really opened up their purse strings to a lot of people. There's a few guys they paid here and there. I mean, look at Walter's contracts all those years.
Yeah.
He never, on paper, he didn't have a lot of money, or they weren't paying him a lot of money. But supposedly Hallis had given him a lot of properties and land around Chicago, so he did well.
When you look at those days, the personalities, for me, now that I'm older, when I was a kid, it was just all of you were just such superstars. That team just was loaded with superstars. But you also had a head coach in Mike Ditka that was one of the strongest personalities in the NFL at the time. You would think that the marriage of you and him as the starting quarterback would be a nightmare. But did it work? Was it? Because it seemed like you had that laid-back personality where you could take somebody that was as in your face as that guy and not lose your cool over it. But did you?
Oh, we definitely had our run-ins. A lot of different run-ins. But I had many talks with him. I said, "Look, Mike, you were a great tight end. He was a great football player. Played the game hard. Played the game in the way it's supposed to be played. But I said, you were a tight end. QBs, we gotta understand what's going on everywhere." And he just thought he was a good play caller, which he had no clue really. He'd send plays in that I'd look over and just, are you kidding me? I'm trying to win games out here. Yeah. You're sending in this stuff. So I'd change plays, or I wouldn't even call them. And we fought a lot about that. And I said, look, I'm just trying to win games, And I said, I understand how to do that. Just give me the 10 guys you like and leave me alone. We'll be fine. Because we had a hell of a defense. If we scored 14 or 7, I think it was, if we got to 17 points, we won like 70-something games in a row.
Yeah.
So I said, that's not that difficult to do when you got Peyton. And we had a lot of different weapons. Our receivers, Willie Galt, one of the fastest guys ever to play. McKinnon, Moorhead, Matsui was a big part of our offense. Dennis Gentry was a huge part of our offense. So we had a lot of different talents. But Mike was the old school coach. We're gonna run the ball. Yeah. We're gonna do this and that. And I'm like, why can't I throw it to him on a little halfback option? Make it simple. Why beat your head into the wall? I never understood that part of it.
Did he ever acquiesce at some point? Did he ever give you an opportunity and let you do your thing?
After he traded me, yeah. No, we fought up until the time I got traded. It's just, I was just the way it was going to be. He wanted to be in control of everything. I said, you can have the credit. I just want to win the game.
Did you still love it? Or did it tarnish the love of the game?
It got real old real fast, especially the year after we won the Super Bowl. I'd missed 4 or 5 games in '85 because my shoulder was bad.
Yeah.
And in the first game of '86, I separated again, or dislocated it again. And the rest of the year, I kept trying to play. They kept telling me there was nothing wrong with it. And I could feel it moving in and out of the socket. It popped in and out all day long. It was, whether I moved my arm, handed the ball off, threw the ball, it popped out. And I kept telling our team doctor, look, Doc, it's coming out. No, it couldn't be. You know how painful that is? I said, yeah, happens 100 times a day. And they still told me there was nothing wrong with it the whole season. And we finally got a bye week. I think it was week 12 or something like that. And it was right after we just played Green Bay for the second time that year. And I got You've probably seen the film clip of the guy picking me up late.
I remember. Yeah.
Slamming me down. The first thing to hit the ground was the side of my head, and that was the cause of all the head problems I'm still having today. But I did hit the shoulder as well, but my shoulder was gone already. So I took that bye week. I went out to L.A. to see Frank Jobe, the old Dodger pitcher or doctor that did all the shoulders and elbow surgeries. And within 5 minutes, he says, "Your arm's coming out of the socket." I said, "I've been telling these idiots that for the last 10 weeks. And he said, "You need surgery right now." And so I had the surgery like a few days later, and our team doctor flew out to watch the surgery. And the guy, he cut me from the top of my shoulder down to my armpit.
Oh.
And when he opened it up, you could see there was nothing there. And the guy says, "Oh, he wasn't lying." Job told me this later. He goes, "Your doctor looked at it and said, he wasn't lying." I said, "Why would I be lying?" I said, "I know my body." I said, "I know what's going on." I said, "There was something wrong." I said, "Why one day I can throw, the next day I can't even move?" And what really irritated me was in 1984, my season ended because I tore the bottom part of my kidney off. And, I was still playing when that was going on. And I said, "Why would you question whether or not I'm hurt?" So that a lot of internal problems we had with the team. Some teammates were like, "Oh, how come he doesn't practice, this and that?" And I never had any problem with the offensive guys. They all knew there was something wrong. And it was just a tough. I didn't like football after that. I could have quit in '88 and been fine.
As a fan, it's sad to hear because for all of us, it looks like, and it's supposed to, I guess, it looks like y'all were just on top of the world. You superstars, like, I know you get asked all the time about what it's like to play with Walter Payton, but you're talking about somebody legendary in the NFL. You got Mike Ditka as the head coach, the players you just named off, that 46-zone defense, and it just looked like you had the world by the tail, and that everybody was high-fiving on the bus, and it was all ice cream parties and a joy. But to hear the reality of life, that's tough for a fan to see.
Yeah, I mean, we did not. It wasn't fun for us players. I mean, it was great on game day, Sunday, Monday night, sure, Thursday, whatever that was. But the rest of the week was brutal. I mean, we basically played 4 games a week because Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday was like game day. Everything was live. We always had pads on. And I remember Buddy used to tell his defensive guys, "Don't hit 34 and don't hit number 9." They never hit 34, but they jacked me around a few times. But it was a tough go. And people always ask me, "Why didn't you guys win more?" And I said, "Well, I think we were tired." I mean, when you beat the hell out of each other for 16 straight weeks, and then the playoffs, that takes its toll. You got to give your body a little bit of time to rest, and we never had that time. We had home field advantage 4 straight years in the playoffs, 85 through 88, and we only won one Super Bowl. Went to 2 NFC championships in those 5 years, 3 NFC championships in those 5 years, and only won one of them. And I think that was just, we were tired at the end of the season, man. We were beat to hell.
I have to mention the loss in '85 because that was my first NFL game. I grew up in Southwest Florida. I grew up in Fort Myers, and I went over on a bus to the game. I'd never been to an NFL game. And my first NFL game was in the Orange Bowl and you didn't play that game. No. You were injured. But we talked about you being competitive. Does that loss mean anything to you because you won the Super Bowl that year? Did it need to be an undefeated season? Does it still bother you as a team that you guys didn't win it? Because the Dolphins, you know how they celebrate this every year. I'm not a Dolphins fan, by the way.
That was the only reason I wanted to win the game, just to
shut them up.
Stop hearing about the 70 Dolphins or 72, whatever.
72.
Yeah, they were all over there on the sidelines. And what was crazy is I had missed Wednesday's practice, which was our first practice. I sprained my ankle a little bit the previous game. And so Wednesday I didn't do much. I practiced Thursday, Friday, Saturday. We fly to Florida. I practiced Sunday night. And as we're coming off the field Sunday night, he says, "You're not playing tomorrow." And I said, "Why not?" He said, "Well, you missed Wednesday's practice." And I'm like, "I practiced every day since." And he said, you didn't practice, you're not playing." And at this point, I had been fed up with him already. So I'm like, fine, I got a free night in Miami. And I did. I had a good time. And so the next night, And earlier in the season, we had a big Monday night game against the Vikings where I was hurt again. I wasn't playing early. I got in his face all the first half. You better let me play. We're going to lose. You better let me in. I ended up going in, and I threw a few touchdowns, and we win the game. And he tells me, we're not going to have another Minnesota tomorrow night. And I'm like, why not? That worked out pretty good. So at this point, I said, you know what? The hell with it. I got a free night in Miami. This game doesn't mean anything. We're already in the playoffs. We have home field advantage. And so throughout the game, Walter was going through his, I think it was his 9th or 10th 100-yard game in a row, which was going to be a record. So that was my focus. I wanted to make sure he got that record. And so during the game, I'm trying to keep track. And we got down early, and we panic, and we start throwing the ball. We're not a throwing team. And Fuller was playing. Fuller's a good quarterback. Always did well when I wasn't able to play. And but that wasn't our offense to throw the ball. And so with about 6 minutes to go in the game, he turns to me and says, all right, you're in. And I said, well, you told me I ain't playing. I ain't going in. And he got in my face. It got a little rough. I said, all right, okay, I'll go in. So he gives me a pass play. And at this point in the game, I'm thinking Walter needs 20, 30 yards for his record. I had no idea, but so I get in the huddle. I said, boys, look. I said, we're down 14 points. There's 6 minutes to go. I said, this game don't mean anything. I said, let's get this man the record he deserves. And every one of them said, yeah, let's do it. So I call a run play. And at this point, they're dropping 8 guys and rushing 3. So as I get up to the line, I look over. He knows I didn't call the pass. He's screaming at me, and I give it to Walter. He busted up there for 10, 15 yards. And I didn't realize we had another timeout. He burns the timeout, so I got to go talk to him now. And he's MFing me all over the field. And I said, Mike, look, we have nothing in our pass game that gets us that many yards. I said, they got dropping 8 guys. I said, now Walter only needs 10 yards for his record. And he had no clue what I was talking about because he was so pissed at me.
Yeah.
And it finally clicked in. He goes, yeah, we'll get him his record. First, we're going to do this. So he gives me another pass. So I got in the huddle. I said, boys, shit's really going to hit the fan now. We're going to run this thing again. And they're all laughing. Oh, yeah, let's do it. So I get up to the line. I look over, and he knows that I didn't call that pass. So he throws his clipboard. And the last thing I saw was he tried to throw his headset, but it's hooked to him, right? So last thing I saw was it bouncing off his chest while I was giving the ball to Walter. He got another 10 or so yards. I said, all right, now let's try to win the game. But that was, to me, that game meant nothing, We did what we were supposed to do. We won the Super Bowl.
Yeah.
It would have been awesome to be, go 19-0.
Sure.
And be one of those teams. But everybody still recognizes our team as one of the best. And I still think they always will.
I think they're one of the best teams ever in the NFL. And to be honest, I went to that game to watch you guys play. I coached high school football when I got a little older, and I wanted to be a football coach. I was a Miami Hurricanes fan. I wasn't an NFL fan as much as I was a college football fan. And I'm still a Hurricanes fan in my core. I've been here for 30 years. But we wanted to watch you play. That defense was legendary, and everybody wanted to watch you throw the football. Everybody wanted to watch Walter Payton run the ball. My youngest brother was a superstar athlete in high school. Again, we're in Southwest Florida, and the gift I bought him when he was a high school football player that he still has hanging in his closet is a Walter Payton jersey, because you guys were such an influence at that time. You seemed to be the closest thing to a perfect football team that there was.
And we won a lot of games. I mean, it wasn't like we went away.
But you intimidated people,
we were,
too.
We went 15-1. The following year, we were 14-2. It wasn't like we disappeared.
No.
And if it wasn't, we didn't have to play the 49ers or the Redskins every damn year in the playoffs, we'd have been all right. But, we had a good club.
Do you keep in touch? Do you still keep in close touch with your teammates?
I still see quite a bit of them. I was in Chicago about a month ago. They had a big signing, and a lot of the 85 team was there. I got to see them. When I do go back for any length of time, I usually see Keith Van Horn, one of my old linemen. Kurt Becker I saw the last trip. There's a few guys. I'll see Willie around all over the states playing in these golf events. Richard Dent as well. Jimbo Covert. Yeah. So I get to see a lot of the guys. And it's always fun to see them, and I'm sure unfortunately, one of our favorite teammates just passed, Steve McMichael, and I'm sure there's going to be something happening, so I'll probably be back there for that.
Did you ever patch things up or smooth things over with Mike Ditka? Did that ever matter to you to have some kind of a rapport? Did you guys have a good rapport after it was all over?
Yeah, I mean, I haven't seen him for a couple of years now, but yeah, we're okay now.
Yeah.
I mean, once I left, I think he realized that I actually did know what the hell I was doing. I did understand the game, and like I said, I would love to play with the guy because had he ever been in my huddle, he would have understood me, and I think we would have probably been pretty good buddies.
Do you still keep up? Do you still watch the NFL? Are you an NFL fan?
No, I don't. I think I watched maybe a quarter of the Super Bowl last year. I only watched because Andy Reid, who was a Kansas City coach, he was my teammate at BYU, and been a good buddy for mine since 1978, I think, 79. And
fabulous coach.
Yeah, he's done an awesome job. He was one of the biggest reasons I ended up going to Green Bay late in my career because he was on the staff. But yeah, he's done a fabulous job. You got to love an ex-O lineman that likes to throw the ball. Most O linemen want to run it all the time. He loves to throw it. That's why I love him. I was hoping he'd get that three-peat just so I don't have to hear about Bill Belichick ever again.
When you look at comparisons, I heard somebody compare Joe Burrow to you, that he's got the same kind of attitude of I am who I am kind of a kid. Do you comparisons, they matter to you? Do you see that when someone says that, yeah, that's a fair comparison, that he seems like that kind of he's got kind of the same attitude?
I've met Joe, but I've never seen him. Don't see him play, so I don't. Seemed like a good kid when I met him. I
just look at people that are in the spotlight, and there's no way that you could ever have, especially for years and years in your life, and I would imagine it's the same now, that there was a time in your life where you couldn't go anywhere without pictures and autographs and people reporting on what you were doing and commented on how you behaved. And if you weren't what they thought you should be, you got criticized for it in the paper. Oh, yeah. That's got to be tough.
Yeah, it was, like I said, it was fun, but it was a pain in the ass at times too. I mean, especially when you have your kids with you and you're just trying to be out to eat, something like that. But I've had my kids knocked over in front of me for people trying to get autographs. And then they get mad when I say no because you just knocked over my kid. You know, you can't win, so I don't even try to win. If they're respectful, I don't have a problem. But there's always somebody that's going to, get under your skin, and you don't need to have that happen out in public.
There's also certain cities where, Green Bay is one of them. Chicago is another one where they are football towns. And, and it doesn't matter whether the team's playing well, if they're successful or they're not successful. Those cities love the Steelers. Pittsburgh's another city like that where they just love their team. And so I would imagine at that time when you're walking around the city of Chicago, they might as well have had you up on a Jumbotron on the sides of buildings. You had to have crowds everywhere you went.
Yeah, there was no doubt. And there was a lot of things going on in Chicago at the time as well. The Saturday Night Live crew was always in town. Murray and George Wendt and those guys. And it was like a who's who of people at our games, on our sidelines. You look over and, yeah, that is Bill Murray, and that is so-and-so. But, Chicago is definitely a bear town. They love their Cubbies too, and their Blackhawks, but it's a bear town, and they live and die with the Bears.
Were you surprised at the commercial success that people came after you and wanted you to do commercials and endorse products, and did that surprise you about it?
Well, some of the products they wanted me to endorse did. I mean, I got offered so much. I probably only did 10% of the stuff I got offered. I could have did something every day, and I didn't. Either I didn't use the product, didn't believe in it, or I didn't know anything about it. I only did stuff that I had used and worked, and I love Taco Bell. I did a Taco Bell commercial. Coca-Cola, I used to drink a lot of Coca-Cola. The scooter commercial I did for Honda. I still have that scooter, 1986.
You do?
I still drive it around here. Yeah, thing still works, man.
I have a buddy
went
that
to every training camp I went to, and it still works.
I have a buddy that owned one, Candy Apple Red, had one, and he bought it because of those commercials.
Yeah, I mean, our linemen loved them too. I mean, we had a lot of guys on scooters during training camp because, I mean, from walking from the dorms to the chow hall to the practice, after you do all that work, you don't want to walk anymore.
Yeah.
So those scooters saved us in training camp.
What's life like now?
Pretty smooth now. I still have to deal with, like I said, my head problems. I still go back to New York every 5 months to get an adjustment on my head, and with the grandkids now, I don't see them as much as I'd like to, but I've only got one of them that lives here in the state. I've got 2 in California, 2 in Minnesota, 2 in Chicago, and so I don't get to see them as much as I'd like to. But and I've been in the cannabis business now for the last 5 or 6 years with some ex-NFL players, Kyle Turley, Ricky Williams, of course, everybody knows, and
Miami Hurricane.
Yeah, still struggling with the the government. Ricky and I were back in Congress 4 or 5 months ago, walking the halls, talking to senators and congressmen about the plant and how it can be still at Schedule 1. Fentanyl they have is Schedule 2. It's killed millions of people. Cannabis has never killed anybody. We all have a cannabinoid system in our bodies. We're supposed to be using this. You don't have an opioid system or an alcohol system. You have a cannabinoid system. Why is that there? It's supposed to be used in this plant. And so we're trying to get the NFL to relax their rules because they'll give you all the damn opiates you want, but they don't do anything for you other than mess up your whole body and your head. But why can't you use something that actually is good for you? So we're trying to change the narrative and let people know that it's not the Grim Reaper type of drug that everybody says it is. It's a gateway drug. No, it's an exit drug. It gets you off all the crap you're on, and you live a lot better life. My body's never felt this good for a long time, other than this foot, and I attribute it all to my cannabis use.
When you look at this stage in your life, I'm sure, like, I'm asking you questions about your past, but I am as compelled by your present, because the places I've seen you, I watch people. At least I try to, and I remember I wanted to run up and have a conversation with you that you've had 1,000 times with people that have memories. And I was an 18-year-old kid, I said, in 85, and you were a big part. I love football so much. You are such a big part of that. But at the same time, watching you interact with people, and I thought, how many people would be as interested if they heard you talk like you just did about your present and about how passionate you still are about things now? Does that get missed a lot with you? Do you think people should be more interested in where you are now than talking about where you were 30 years ago, 40 years ago?
Yeah, I don't talk about it usually. hard to remember a lot of that. But that's what's crazy. I can remember stuff that happened that far back. But I almost missed this interview today because I'd forgotten. I
forgot we were doing it.
Yeah. And, the present day stuff, it doesn't stick as good as the old stuff does. But yeah, like I said, I feel like I'm healthy enough to, live a few more years, hopefully quite a few. My dad just turned 89 yesterday, or on the 18th. My mom will be 89 on Saturday. They're still hanging in there, so
that's awesome.
Hopefully, they got the good genes, and just keep rolling.
So my last question is about Arizona. Why Arizona? Why did you land here of all the places you've been and could be? California's where you grew up, Chicago. Why end up here? Weather.
My body feels great in dry heat. I cannot stand humidity. I played here in '94 with the Cardinals, and I knew then, I said, when I retire, I'm going to live here. And I ended up staying in Chicago for 28 years till my youngest son ended up going to college. And I said, all right, I've had enough snow, cold weather. I'm going to Arizona. And I've been here ever since. Don't plan on leaving here.
Yeah, I moved here in '95. I came out in '92 on vacation and fell in love. And I grew up in a beautiful place on the Gulf of Mexico, but I fell in love with this place.
Gulf of America now, right?
Gulf of America, that's right. Thanks for correcting me. But growing up there and then coming here, I go home. I have family still there. But this is home. And I like you, I love it. I love the dry heat. I don't care about how hot the summers get.
Well, that's what everybody says. Oh, it's so hot. Yeah, but you don't sweat here.
Nope.
That's what I love about it. I mean,
no bugs?
Yeah, Florida. I mean, Chicago's bad in the summertime. I mean, the humidity is really bad. And I hate just, getting out of the shower and you walk outside and you're sweating again. I can't stand that.
I remember sweating, drying off, getting out of the shower. I grew up in construction and working in Southwest Florida. You bring 3 shirts with you to work because you're going to sweat through them all day long.
Just not this is perfect weather for me, for my body.
I appreciate the time. I know you're very busy, and we have a mutual friend that kind of pushed you to do this, and I know you get asked to do a lot of things, so it means a lot you came and did this podcast. It's great to get to know you a little bit, and appreciate the time today.
Hey, my pleasure. Thank you.
All right, Jim McMahon, this is the podcast called Amazing Arizonans, and it's just to tell stories of people that live here, that have accomplished great things here, and this is one of the legends in the NFL, and we love to spend the time. So check the rest of these podcasts out, and thanks for watching this one.
Thanks for watching Amazing Arizonans, presented by Resolution Copper. Tap the button in the middle to subscribe to KTAR News.